Welcome to the Great Awakening Ministry. I am Minister and Yogini Joanne Lee. And on this week's show, we have Bronwen Logan. Reiki author and teacher Bronwen Logan is a co-founder of the International House of Reiki and has worked with the Reiki system and researched its Japanese origins across Europe, Asia, North America, Australia, and Japan. Bronwen now resides in the Blue Mountains near Sydney, Australia, and has since launched her initiative Reiki with Bronwen to further explore and teach the practice. She continues to share her extensive knowledge and experience with Reiki practitioners worldwide. The Reiki Sourcebook revolutionized the Reiki community with its comprehensive coverage of history, practice, and philosophy of the Reiki system 20 years ago. It meticulously tracks every significant aspect from the system's inception in early 1900s Japan to the West and back to Japan. This new anniversary edition of the Reiki Sourcebook celebrates the depth of research and clarity that this book has brought to the Reiki community, with an introduction for beginners and a chronological history that answers questions like, where did the attunement process come from and which hand positions are correct? These pages explain and illustrate the techniques from both Japan and the West. This is a definitive manual for anyone with a particular interest in the system of Reiki, Japanese healing practices, or a more general interest in complementary health.
UK Health Radio, the station that makes you feel good.
Beautiful. Wow. I just want to say, Bronwen, welcome to the Great Awakening show.
Thank you, Joanne.
Oh, it's going to be lovely. We've got so many wonderful questions. And, first of all, Bronwen, please give our audience a little bit about what Reiki is, its origins, benefits, philosophy, a little bit how it works.
Oh, wow. That's a lot.
Well, yeah.
Okay. Let me have a think. Where do I start? Well, I guess, probably the most important thing is sort of like, what is it? Because I think there's a lot of misunderstandings, and there have been a lot of misunderstandings about what it is. And that's been part of my journey in trying to educate people about the history of the system so that we could get a better understanding of where we are right now and where we're heading with it as well. So I think it's always really a great idea to have a good understanding of whatever practice it is that you're doing, right? That we have some sort of grounding in something rather than us just being, off the fairies, I guess. It's very easy to really enjoy that sort of free-flowing mind, intuitive aspect of life. But we always still need to have that really grounded sensation at the same time. So the system of Reiki is a practice that comes from Japan, and it started in the early 1900s. There was a man who began it, and he began it really as just sort of like his own personal meditation practice. And then he started teaching other people how to do that because they were interested in what he did. He actually came from a samurai family.
Wow.
And but the samurais at the time when he was born was just when Japan was going through an enormous change. It had been closed to the outside world for a couple of 100 years. And the emperor at that time, when Mikao Usui, that's the founder, when he was born, they actually, the emperor and the empress opened up Japan to the world. So he also closed down the samurai families because they were a sort of a different, he was looking for a different way of being in the world, I think. And the samurai families were the very elite families. And they, as we know, like ninjas and all that sort of thing, it's sort of like passed down through the samurai families, all these different skills. And so Mikao Usui came from that, but then it was all disbanded. So he
Can I ask you,
was,
the samurai families, they practiced Reiki.
Well,
Wow.
we
This is,
didn't,
that's,
I mean, yeah, not
yeah.
quite. I mean, what we know is that he says it himself, actually, in one of the manuals that we've got, where they've got translations of things that he said about the practice. He said that it started off with Japanese samurai families had these skills that passed down, but that then the samurai families were disbanded. So what happened was that most of these people who knew these skills, they went off and they started teaching them just in schools rather than keeping them privately, secretly in the family. So if you think of things like some Japanese practices, kendo, where they have the swords, aikido, judo, they all came from samurai families originally. And then because they couldn't still practice them in their families, they started schools with them. And that was in the early 1900s.
Wow.
So what we know about the system of Reiki is that he says that happened. But he also says that it was something new that he created. So it may have had aspects of things that he had learned, that he'd learned, but also just through his own practice, he sort of developed that further. So I think it's a mix of things, and definitely a blending of Japanese elements like Shintoism, which is the folk religion of Japan, where they really, they feel that there's that everything has this essence of divinity inside of it. So whether it be a rock or a tree or a person, we all have it. And that's a really beautiful, it's a really beautiful idea. And then there's Buddhism, obviously. There's lots of different forms of Buddhism in Japan. And all of these things have come together in Japan and have created a lot of different practices. So he was influenced by a lot of that. And bit by bit, he developed a practice. And as I said, it started off as a meditation practice for yourself. So that's coming to the point of what the hell is this?
Yeah.
It started off as something for yourself, right? And then it became something that he was teaching other people. So he was looking for ways to make that connection for people to experience what he was experiencing. And what he was experiencing was he'd found practices to help him let go and really connect with nature, if you like, with the universe, finding ways at becoming one with the world around him and really just sitting into that. And, that goes by so many names. It goes by enlightenment, is just one of them. And
God, connection with the God force, connection with spirit.
So he was helping people find that. And in finding that, he said this is a system. As he started working with people, he started to realize he could put together a system that would help people to work on themselves, that they could find this natural balance in themselves, and that they could then also help other people with that. Today, I think the system of Reiki is known very much for the hands-on healing aspect. So that would be the thing that you would do to someone else to help them allow their energy to let go, to free up, to find its own natural balance, which is sort of like, if you think we're in this world and we have, everything is flowing in its own way inside of us, but we have a lot of issues. We've all got issues, right? So all the issues get in the way of that beautiful natural flow of energy and natural way of being. So if we think of ourselves like that, we can also see the universe like that. And we are a part of the universe. Obviously, we're not separate to it. So we sit inside it and it has this lovely natural flow. We have this lovely natural flow. And sometimes though we feel disconnected, and you use the word connection before, sometimes we feel that disconnection from the world around us and we forget and we become tighter and have more obstacles in our way, stopping us from really just being able to let go and be at one with nature and the natural flow of the universe. That's sort of where we see ourselves heading when we're practicing the system of Reiki. There's a lot more to it, but hey, that's sort of
That's
a
so
bit of
beautiful.
a basic thing.
That is so beautiful. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
And so please describe, your incredible book. So you had the first edition the Reiki Sourcebook that sold over 50,000 copies. This is amazing. And now it's the new revised, you're launching the new revised edition that addresses the integration of Reiki with other healing modalities and healthcare practices, which is really important. Can you describe the Reiki Sourcebook? Is it different so much from the original?
Not so different. I mean, when I was writing the introduction to it, I did say that I didn't want to, what is the word? I've forgotten the word now. But I didn't want to rewrite history.
Yeah.
Right? Because in many ways, that's what it is. It tells about the history. It tells where, for example, when I first learned the system of Reiki, and that was like 25 years ago, when I did that, I was taught a number of different practices. And I was asking my teacher, like, so where do these practices come from? You know, what is that? Why do we do it like that? And the teacher couldn't answer that, which is fair enough because there wasn't really that information there to find those answers anyway. So these were the sort of things that I was really interested in researching and finding out about, so that for anyone like me, anyone who took a Reiki course, no matter where they were or what type of Reiki, that they could actually go, oh, so I just learned this practice. What does that mean? Where does it come from? When was it introduced into the system? By whom was it introduced? And what's the purpose of this? So really being able to find a lot more grounding once again in your practice. Yep. And that's what the Reiki Sourcebook is. So that in a way, there's not so much to change in the Reiki Sourcebook because that is history, right? And it is what it is. And it talks about the different types of teachings that exist today, where they all come from, how they branched off, how this one became this one, this one, this one. And there's an enormous glossary in the back where you can look up any people, practices, anything that you like. So yeah, it is a book that really, this book that's come out is a celebration of the fact that it's been around for 20 years.
Wow,
and it's still this really vibrant, it's still so relevant, vibrant. And I hope that in it coming out with its lovely new cover, and I haven't got a copy here to show you, I'm so sorry, but they haven't sent me one yet. And it just came out today, actually, in the UK, but you can pre-order it on any Amazon anywhere. And the thing is that it's there for, I think, also a new audience. There's always new people coming along into the practice, trying to find out things for themselves and not knowing where to look. So
that's absolutely beautiful. And I like that it incorporates the healing modalities and modern healthcare practices as well. I mean, it's an absolute encyclopedia, a manual for this. It really is. It's just what it is. This is the source book. For Reiki, everything you ever want to know. You've done so much research, it's from all around the world. It's absolutely beautiful. It really is. And so
I tell you what, I find it hard to remember all those things myself. So
that's why you have to put it in a book. Brilliant. That's so good. And so please tell us, Bronwen, what are the 5 core elements of the Reiki system?
I mean, this was really interesting. So like I said, when I started, I was given different practices, but there wasn't this sense of a cohesive practice, right? And yet we know that when the guy, when Mikao Usui, the founder, started it, that, he was putting these things together to help people. He had this idea of, what sort of a practice he wanted. But for us in our modern day world, we didn't have a lot of information about that and how it was put together, and also seeing how it really spread its wings when, well, at least one of the teachers, the major teacher here in the West, Hawayo Takada, when she died in 1980, she had studied it in Japan. She died in 1980, and she left a number of teachers behind, and they all seemed to just spread out and take it into their own worlds, which meant that there was an enormous amount of diversity in the practice, and there wasn't really a cohesive idea of what this is, because a lot of people took it into different New Age practices, for example. So it was sort of linked in with other things, but it didn't have its own world, really.
Yes.
So this was really interesting. And by researching, going back and looking at what different teachers taught. So what we knew that the founder had taught, then his students had written books, his peers had written books, people who'd studied with him. So, you know, that there was a lot of information around him as well. And there's also an association that existed in Japan, which was put together near the end of his life, we understand. And that association still exists today in Japan. So there's different places we can find information, and there was a memorial stone as well. This beautiful big, you know, I don't know, 2 meter high or more memorial stone engraved into this granite, the story of his life, and
Wow,
that's been a great thing to hold on to. But interestingly, it was the language, the kanji, so the Japanese writing that is on it is actually pre-World War II. So it's a different type of kanji, a more complex kanji than what's written today, which means that for a regular person today to read that is actually quite difficult. So we still have obstacles in the sense of need someone who can actually read the memorial sign, then translate it. So there's always these little sort of hurdles that we need to overcome to actually really get to grips with the history of how it came together. So the 5 elements are things that Franz Steiner, my ex-husband, who did the Reiki Sourcebook with me and researched it with me, he and I put together these ideas. So we looked at what we knew existed in all the different teachings that were called Reiki or were around Reiki, had come from Reiki. And we found these elements that were consistent across the board. So the first one, I guess the most important one possibly, is just some precepts. So just simple, very simple guidelines. Joanne, do you know the Reiki precepts?
No.
You do? Yeah. No, you don't.
No.
And they're really simple. They just for today only, it begins with, for today only, do not anger, do not worry, be grateful, be true to yourself, and be compassionate to yourself and others. So, you know, simple to say, not so simple to practice, but simple to say. And, you know, we sort of worked out that if we were these precepts, if I was that, if just for this moment I was not angry, there's no worry, I was totally compassionate, true to who I am, if every moment of my life was that, then I would be in that state that we talked about in the beginning, in that state of oneness, in that state of enlightenment, of pure connection with the universe, because I wouldn't be holding on to any issues or worries or, you know, fears.
Yeah.
So it seemed that these precepts were sort of like the ideal of the practice. So that was the first element. There was another part of that which is really interesting, and that is, well, there's meditation practices, as I said. In the meditation practices, there's some different ways of practicing, and traditionally in Japan, I'll just show you a book I've got.
Yeah.
Traditionally in Japan, they would practice poetry in their meditation. So this is a book by the Empress of the time, and she wrote over 30,000 poems, and they're all quite short poems.
They would repeat
and she
them.
Wrote these.
They would say them over and over.
They could repeat them, and they're actually called waka. Wa means Japanese, ka means song. So it is like a chant, right?
Yes.
So it's like you could chant them to yourself. Absolutely, yeah.
To take you into that point
time,
of concentration, and then further into meditation. Wow.
And really deep contemplative poems. So both the Empress, and also there's a book with the Empress, with the Emperor's poetry as well. Wow. And he wrote over 100,000 poems. So in the early 1900s, because everyone revered the emperor and the emperor revered his people, then there was this mutual respect and love and desire to learn. So he would be giving these poems to help his people, and the people would then, as you say, recite or chant, contemplate these poems. In fact, martial artists those days used to go out at a full moon, and they'd go out in the middle of the night and they'd sit and they'd look at the full moon and they'd recite the poetry to the full moon.
Beautiful.
Yes, quite sort of romantic, I think, and possibly not how we sort of see martial arts today. But within the system of Reiki, there were meditations also with these poems in it. So there were meditation practices. And the meditation practices were very much about expanding and generating more energy in the body for the self and also for others, so that you could work with other people. And this idea of greater energy, greater ki, is that the greater the flow of energy in our body, that it starts to move and shift the things that we don't need to hold inside of us, to allow ourselves to really get back to that sense of that sense of once with everything. So there's the precepts, there's the meditation practices, hands-on healing, which lots of people know. So, that's a beautiful tool, and it's a way, it was also very popular in the early 1900s in Japan, not just in Reiki. Lots of people were doing it, and there were teachers who had hundreds of thousands of students. Not Reiki. Reiki was actually I think he had about 2,000 students within the system of Reiki, so a much smaller practice. But some of the teachers had enormous groups, and they would travel around and from town to town, and everyone would come and meditate together and then practice hands-on healing on each other. So hands-on healing is really using the tools.
Yes. Because that's what I'd like to go into the hands-on healing a little bit, because how I'd really like to know, because we all have that power within, but we're just, the higher self heals us that we within. And as you said, explain about how the energy comes in to the healer and how it can actually heal that other person.
Yeah, it's pretty fascinating stuff. Actually, if I look at some of the things that the founder said about how healing works, he said that it is that everyone can do it. Doesn't matter whether you're a kid, whether you're an old person, doesn't matter your gender, doesn't matter anything. Anyone can do it. And it is a natural thing for us, but it is a way of we are developing, like I said, generating more energy. So really working with that innate skill that we already have. So we know that our bodies can heal themselves. We know that, medicine, for example, can find out what's wrong with you. You can go and, have x-rays and ultrasounds and all these things. So we can, look at the body. But something like the system of Reiki is it's just not a part of that world. This is very much about this natural ability. So, for example, if you have an operation, the body still needs to heal itself.
Exactly.
Yes, they can cut something out of you, or they can do whatever to you, which is fantastic and amazing, right?
Yes.
But then the body still needs to heal itself. And this is what this is about. It is the natural skill that we all have, all animals have. And he was really tapping into that and really wanting us to more with that and really go into that. And it doesn't mean we're not going to die. We're all going to die, but it means that we could die whole, if you like, right? So we could die in a space where we feel at peace. If we think of those Reiki precepts, for this moment, not having anger or worry, being true to who we are, being grateful, being compassionate, having all of that in our lives is what he considered to be the most important thing as a human being. So if we look at how what I was going to say is that in that manual of his, that he says that we heal using the hands, the eyes, and the breath.
Wow.
So it's three things, and these three things actually fit into a very Japanese understanding of the world, and we see the three things replicated again and again and again. And in many cultures, three is also a very special number. Yeah. So these three things: the breath, the hands, and the eyes. Yeah. So hands is an important tool for healing, but it's not the healing itself. And this is where, like, you're just saying, like, how does that work?
Yeah, the energy,
so the way
it flows.
I see it.
Are you taking the energy from the higher source and bringing it through you as a channel?
No. It's not how I see it. I think, you could describe it in a million different ways.
Yeah.
Let me say that, right?
Yeah.
So I'll describe it in one way. Because it's ephemeral. We can't touch it. We don't, it's not something that we can just, it's not like a piece of paper with something written down. It's something that you have to experience for yourself. And basically what we're doing is when we're practicing on ourselves, so with our meditation practices, by the way, there's also, we also work with symbols and mantras, and we also have a practice called Reiki, which is like an initiation practice between the teacher and the student. So those made up the 5 elements that we were just talking about before. But so with hands-on healing, I would say what happens is that as the practitioner, I go into a healing space, is a way of putting it. So a meditation space. So I sit with the client with my intention. Intention is so incredibly important. Yeah. I sit with the intention of being there, open with this person, that I breathe into my body. So with the meditation practices, to just get myself into that sense of total openness, and to really be in that state of the Reiki precepts. So if I'm sitting in that space, and then I'm sitting with that person and I'm touching that person with my hands, it's very safe, non-intrusive. You don't need to take your clothes off. Don't touch any private parts of the body. We can put our hands on or off the body. So if I'm sitting in that space and I'm using my hands, I'm asking that person, that client, to be in that space with me and to let go of whatever is going on in their lives and to really just share that space with me. So it's really about me back into that innate healing skill that my body has. So I'm sitting back into that, because that is wholeness. That is where the body is always finding its way back into balance. And when I sit with that person who's having a treatment, I'm sitting with them in that space of wholeness, and they feel that. Their body feels that. And the way I set up the treatment is with their intention that they will be open to receive whatever it is that they need. And by thinking that, they are starting to understand it's not me doing anything to them. It's actually their bodies
healing themselves. You're
up on
just
this.
initiating it and helping them to heal themselves, because we all we save ourselves and we heal ourselves. It's so true. Yes.
Yeah. And we sit in that space. I mean, it's like you support the client to be in that space, and you help them by, telling them, what their intention is, to be open to that. And for example, when I do it, I don't try to channel energy or move energy or anything like that. I really try to actually let go. And I do think that the hardest thing for any human being is to let go. We so much want to take on stuff, don't we? And we want to educate ourselves and we want to do all these things. But there is a point where with a practice like this, which is an energetic spiritual practice, we need to let go into that and feel that and allow that to be the actual healing, not us being the healing.
No, it's like a surrendering, isn't it? And it's a being. It's a being in this divine moment with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're not in the past or future. You're just allowing and surrendering. Wow, it's just beautiful.
It is. And, we do it all the time. So I could do it in a formalized fashion, like on, a client. But I could talk to someone. Remember we were just saying as well that, like hands, breath, and eyes. Like our yeah, we connect with the eyes, ask Shakespeare, right? Yeah, that's where we, the eyes have it. And it's that deep connection that we have with each other when we look into each other's eyes. I mean, you don't want to be imposing and you don't want to be in people's faces, but, with that sense of coming around to being with someone and having that opportunity for both of you to let go and to actually see each other is incredibly beautiful, and it's very freeing.
See the
It
truth
is.
of that divine soul within, the physical body, that we've all have that soul consciousness within, which is the same consciousness that we all share. Yeah, that's beautiful.
I mean, I think we need to be careful with those things, that we're not pushing ourselves on others. But like I just did a treatment the other day on a lady, and then after the treatment, we were just standing talking, and we went to say goodbye, and then we just looked into each other's eyes, and there was just pure connection. It didn't mean anything, and it didn't mean that I'd ever see this person again. But it's just this thing of, we don't need to pretend or manufacture ourselves, that we can relax and let go and just really let our true being just be there without any shame or worry.
It's almost like
beautiful.
It's almost like you are holding that space, by being with them principles. You're allowing that person to therefore be in their true state of healing, their true state, their true self of healing, which is, it's so simple, really, is it not? That's what we do when we go into that meditation. Our meditations every day, we're just being in that true self state. It's beautiful.
And just working on ourselves so that we're strong enough, resilient enough to have the skill to hold that space for someone else. Is to let them then discover things within themselves, without us feeling the need to be, once again, intrusive, or, really we're just this, I don't know, we are, people use the word vessel, don't they? And it's true. We're like a vessel that is just there for us to support other people, but also to support ourselves. And
because it's so important. As you said, so many therapists and healers, I'm going to heal you. No, you're just making the space for that person's higher self, true self, to heal themselves. That's where, we get this hierarchy. I'm the healer, I'm the therapist, I'm the doctor. No, we're all that, aren't we?
Yeah, I love that. And we disempower people the minute we say that we are a healer.
Hello?
Internet there, is it playing up?
Yeah, just a little bit, but it's back to normal now.
Oh, good.
Yeah, exactly.
But I do feel like we disempower people. If we take away from them something which is innate,
their own healing ability,
and I know.
Wow.
And the other thing is, if I'm going, if you've got, well, for one, if they say, I've got a bad knee and I spend all my time, working on this knee, I don't really know what's wrong with this person. I'm not kidding myself. I don't know. I don't have to know. This is the thing, because the knowing is the head alone. I'm more than just a head. I am also, a spiritual being, and a physical being. And, it's the blending of these things that come together that make me whole. But if I'm out of balance and too much in my head, then I'm telling people the stuff and I'm making this happen. But really, that's me. It's just, it's like, it's a very disconnected experience, actually. But a truly whole experience is one where everything works together and blends
holistically
together. And it does. There was something I was going to say before, I've forgotten, but hey,
and it's the energy, isn't it? It's the energy, because we have our energy bodies, that are with the physical body, and when there's an imbalance in the energy body, it will manifest into a problem in the physical body. So what we're doing,
absolutely.
So in Reiki, you're holding space for that energy to rebalance itself, to have that alignment of mind, body, and soul, mind, body, and spirit, isn't it? To come back to homeostasis, to come back to wholeness, with our different parts. And that's very difficult in this world because I believe that we all come from the oneness. We're born from that source, and we come down into this duality, which is separation. And we're always looking for that wholeness. We have to have that wholeness between our light and dark, our feminine and our masculine, and our energies within. It's all about that wholeness, and that's what you've been talking about the whole time. Having that, it's beautiful.
If I look at the Japanese idea of how the universe began, so if we're at one with the universe and we are a mirror of the universe and how the universe began, we can see that inside of ourselves. And it's exactly what you're talking about. So it's believed that the universe began with the earth and the heavens. So you have these dual elements which are disconnected. They're in their own sort of space, right? But when they come together, and when they blend, then something is created. And that is us, that is life. And so we're this blending of these polar opposites. And it is this sense of wholeness that comes out of that. And we see ourselves in that as well, because when we practice our meditation practices, for example, we use the core. It's called the hara and below your belly button, in your abdomen.
The hara, Where all the energy is, where all the energy, the nadis and the meridians come from that go around the whole of the body.
Well, in Japan, they believe that's your original energy, which is what you're saying, and that it is something that it's handed down to you by your parents. So when your parents come together, once again, these two opposites coming together and creating, you being the creation, right? Then that is where we begin, if you like. So we begin at the hara, and that is this grounded physical force. And then we have the heavens, which we see as the head. And it's that really intuitive, mental aspect of ourselves, which is really so special and beautiful, and holds a lot of wisdom. But it's more wise when it is connected through as a whole, and that's when we really get compassion coming into it. So we have the head and the hara coming together at the heart, and that is that really opening of the compassion itself, because we're the blending of this wisdom from our parents, from their parents and their parents and their parents, and our own natural wisdom, bringing those things together and creating this unified sense of who we are. And when we practice, we just allow those elements to find their own balance. And every moment's going to be different, because I'm going through different things. I've got different problems. I've got different great things happening, always different stuff. So that sense of balance is always trying to happen. The body's always trying to find its way back. And that is innate healing. That's what we do. And if I hold a baby, it's like I can't help but be there, one with that baby, and the two of us really finding ourselves in that really lovely holistic space of balance between the heavens and the earth, and being at one with the universe. So this is a natural space for us.
That's so beautiful. And I think that's what this great awakening, this fastening up of this great awakening that I feel that the whole of humanity is going through. That's the essence of it. Finding that balance within you. It's like it within yourself, and then others find that within themselves. And earth peace through self peace. It's all about the self and having that wholeness within, which is where the true healing begins. Wow.
Yeah, absolutely. So in that sense, the system of Reiki, people sometimes get confused. They say, oh yeah, I do Reiki. I've never learned it, but I do Reiki. Well, that's not really Reiki, but what they're saying is that they are tapping into that innate sense of healing themselves. But as you were saying before, the system of Reiki has these 5 elements, and these are different practices that you work with to really strengthen your own energy. And we strengthen ourselves from inside, not from outside. So it's not about putting up protective barriers against the world or anything like that. In fact, it's the opposite. We do that onion thing of like, taking away a skin and another skin and another skin and another skin, trying to let go to actually be true to who we are, whatever that core self, whatever we experience that core self to be. So we're not trying to be something, protect ourselves or anything like that. We're really very much about letting go of that. And because if I'm protecting myself, then I cannot be at one with the universe, because I am putting up a barrier between myself and the rest of the world.
That's right, Bronwen, because we already are. We already are within, we already have the divine flame within that was put inside of us. That's the soul consciousness. We already are. So we just have to let go of those, as you said, the onion, let go of those limiting beliefs and the egoic, thoughts and feelings that are blocking us and limiting us. And it is a practice of letting go of that, of peeling them away, the onion, to find the beautiful, divine, true self within. That's what the awakening process, is it not?
It is, and I see it. I call it inner armor.
Yes,
so
that's right.
It's like it's about resilience and strength. It's allowing that you're talking about to come out.
And that's the natural,
right?
that's the natural, a light and love that we give out anyway, which naturally, it's not the armor of light and love. It's a natural thing. You don't have to put one up.
Absolutely.
You just go within and you just feel that love and light within, which is you're spreading that naturally out anyway. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. I think I get that because, all the things that happen in our world, and I think this is what you talk about your show, The Great Awakening, is this understanding as well in ourselves that, if I'm fearful of someone, people pick that up, right? Or fearful of something, and we end up having a fearful exchange. If someone's angry at me and I'm angry back at them, we end up having an angry exchange. But if I am loving towards someone, they can't help but have to be somewhat in my space because we're having this exchange, and it becomes a loving exchange. So that understanding that rather than having to hide ourselves away and trying not to be angry. I know for the precepts are do not anger, but the reason why they're actually saying that is because they want us to just think about our anger. I mean, it could say be peaceful instead, right? But but then we may not actually look at ourselves and what we're doing and how we're acting, and we need to actually see who we are and what's going on in this moment, and is there something that we can do about that to actually bring about more loving compassion.
That's right, because them dark negative destructive feelings, that's part of being a human. We're in the world of duality. We have to look at that darkness and that shadow and bring it up and embrace it because it's a part of us. Anger is a normal human emotion. And we need that anger sometimes to say no to situations that are harmful to us and to our loved ones and to society. We need that. But as long as we don't stay in it, as long as we don't live it and it becomes part of us, we need to express those emotions the moment that we feel them. Otherwise, they stay within the pain body, they stay within our subconscious and our energy bodies, and they grow and they grow and they grow, and then they come out as some dramatic situation. We live it out later on. It has to be expressed, but as long as we don't, go into it and become the angry person and we stay in that. No, express it, feel it, we embrace it, and then just use that love to come over it, because we're not, there's no such thing as perfection, is there? I think that it gets less and less and less the more the spiritual journey you go along, because you don't need that anger. You don't meet them angry people. As you said, love comes more and more and more, and you're in your love place more and
Yeah.
more and more as you journey on your journey of evolution.
Yeah. No, I think we're pretty perfectly imperfect, and
I love that.
we are we are not perfect, but it's okay, because in that moment we are what we are, right? But I do like the Dalai Lama talks about wrathful compassion,
Yes.
and
Because
that's
love can be
it is an
strong.
aspect of
Because
compassion. Yeah,
love can be strong. You're telling your children, no, don't go out there. Don't
yeah,
do that.
that's
Love
it.
is strong. Love
Yeah,
is not weak. People think that
yeah,
being loving is, oh, well, it's weak and it's unicorns. No,
hmm,
love can be the shadow as well. The
yeah,
darkness. We've got to see the good, the God in even in the bad things, because that's what you said about the imperfection is where we learn. It's the contrast that
yeah.
makes us say no to them situations, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I love what you said about the kids. As a parent, it's that thing.
Yeah.
Sometimes we need that energy of having to stand up, and I think it was the Dalai Lama who was also talking about. He said, like, you might have a really horrible neighbor. He said, well, you could just let the neighbor walk all over you, right? But that may not work sometimes. Because sometimes you've got to stand up and you've got to
Yes.
speak,
Yes.
and you
Speak
can
the
still
truth.
do it from a space of compassion,
Love.
right? Because you're actually helping the situation. You're going to help both of you, right, to have a better experience. Uh, and but letting that fire speak with you, yeah. And sometimes I think it's semantics, because anger itself can be an out of control emotion, which is just dangerous. But
Yes.
if we can recognize it, I guess, and use the power of it for
Mm.
something else, then that's
Channel
a
it. You
really,
channel it.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Because
it takes a lot of effort, I think, to do that. Mm.
mm, well,
Awareness.
this is why we're this journey, this awakening journey that we're all on, is
Yeah.
about mastering our emotions, mastering our thoughts, our feelings, our
Mm.
words, and our actions, to be the master of your life.
Yeah.
This is, and make every thought, feeling, word, and action sacred, so that it doesn't go out and cause
Yeah.
more harm to another person, or come back to cause
Yeah.
harm to you in our cause and effect universe. But
When we talk about healing with the, just when you were talking about then about healing with the hands and the eyes and the breath, when we talk
breath,
about the breath,
yeah.
that's also speech, which is what you're just saying now
Yes,
as
because our
well.
words
So
affect.
it's that thing of, yeah, they do. Mm. And even the words in our head, in our mind,
Self-talk.
how we speak to ourselves, how we speak to others.
So
Mm.
powerful, because we are such powerful beings, Bronwyn. And I think that we don't understand how powerful we are. That has been taken away from us from millennia, because we've been told that we are worthless. We've been told that we are sinners. We've been told that we are not divine. But we are, because we all have that divine flame within us, which is the truth of who we are. That's why we can heal ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if we can only see and experience that we are actually a part of this greater world,
Yeah.
then we begin to understand that. Yeah, it's when we feel that disconnected, you know, when we go inside ourselves rather than being able to open
Mm.
ourselves, which can be really difficult, but incredibly beautiful if we can allow ourselves to be open and experience the world for what it is.
And that's where your book comes in, because your book is such a source book. And, and that's how Reiki can help us, because this is a system of self-healing. Please describe the importance. This is what you're saying, isn't it? Of personal practice and self-healing on the Reiki journey. This is what we're talking about here, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. I think, you know, the only things we can really know in this world are our own experiences. I can't know your experience, Joanne. I can't know I mean, you can tell me things and maybe some things are similar, but I still can't really totally understand. I can empathize with it, but I can't experience it. So I can only know my own experience. So if we look at the world and what we're doing, it really can only come from here. It can only come from me. And then my place in the world and how I am with others in a formal way and in an informal way. So, in a practice or doing treatments, but just being together with people, to people, being in a shop, whatever, that. So in all ways of being, then, I need to be more aware of what I'm doing and how I am in this world. I can't really change anyone or anything else, but I can certainly choose how I am and how I be.
Bronwen, this is one of the most important aspects. We can't heal another unless we have that healing within ourselves. It's called the healed healer, yeah? But it's not coming from a place of selfishness or vanity. It's coming from a place of learning to go within and having that space within ourselves, which is that healing space, that true self-healing space that you've been talking about, that Reiki allows for us then to be able to hold space for that other person to find that within them. That's what it is. It's amazing.
Yeah, 100%.
Isn't it? And I've got to say, it's very similar. I'm a yogini and I teach, the Kundalini, but, yoga in the West is not even true yoga. They call it yoga in the East. It's all about the breath and the meditation and all of, and the practices and the physical, but it's a holistic process. But in the West, it's just become exercise, really, sometimes, that people are teaching. And it's not the true yoga of the gurus that were taught, and this is where I think that Reiki's come in, because I've had Reiki before in a beauty parlor that wasn't the true essence of Reiki, how it should be. It's not, they shouldn't even really call it Reiki, as they shouldn't even really call it yoga, because it's not teaching the truth of what you're talking about, being that these people who are healing it, are teaching it, are not really true healers, because they haven't healed themselves. And it's like, now you can go and do Reiki 1, 2, and 3 on a weekend. You can go and be a yoga teacher within 2 weeks. But I don't believe that's truly, you haven't really truly healed yourself to be able to hold space for that healing process to help. And it's all about the ego coming in, being, I'm a yoga teacher, I'm a Reiki teacher, which is, this is so important for people like you to bring in the true Sourcebook of Reiki, and have these conversations.
Yeah, look, when I thought of writing that book, there was this guy who ran this bookstore, an esoteric bookstore, and he had written a lot of books himself. And I don't even know how I got talking to him, but anyway, I was talking to him and I said, I'm interested in putting a book together about Reiki. And he said, let's meet and we're going to talk about this. So we got together and, we told him the ideas that we had for this book. And I said, I don't know, but I think it would be really helpful to have a really grounded experience for people, that they could find out what they're doing. So for, like the people in the beauty parlor doing Reiki, they might actually want to know what they're doing, but they don't have any
guidance. There's not one place. There's not.
That's right. There's nothing there for
all
them.
of the information.
Right. Yeah, that's right. So, I was really motivated by the fact that I myself, when I first started, had sort of a bit of an odd experience and didn't really know what I was doing. And I thought, there's so many people in the world out there like me.
Yeah.
So it would be amazing. And, telling this guy about the idea, and he said, you know what? If you have this really clear idea you were saying something like this before, Joanne, as well. If you have this really clear idea of what it is that you think you want this book to be, it will happen.
Yeah.
I know it will happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If it will be all those things that your heart says.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
And it was true. It really was true.
Mm.
And I could not believe, just getting all that information together into one place, and how wonderful that was for me. And, and hopefully for a lot of the people in the world too, who have used it to support them in their practice. And yeah. I think that there's lots of, one thing I've always tried not to be is like the Reiki police.
Yeah.
You know what I
Got to
mean?
do it
Like,
this way.
it's not,
This
who
is the
wants
way,
to do that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I understand exactly what you're saying about practices. And, my interest is in the Japanese origins, and that is what I try to practice. But I do see that a lot of other people have different ideas and they want to do different things. And I think, look, that's fine too, as long as you make the people you come into contact with aware of what you're doing. So you might say, yeah, I do the Japanese practice of Reiki, but I like to include, the Tibetan Bon symbols, or I don't know,
Make it your
explaining
own.
to people, being clear. Yeah. Be clear though to the people that you meet what you're doing, so that there's not this confusion where people think, oh, was that Reiki? Oh, I didn't think that was, oh, that's right. And they actually don't know. And I always said the future of Reiki would disappear if we were to go in that direction, because there is no core anymore,
that's right,
to the system, right?
And the core,
so something
core
like
principle
this book is
it's beautiful that your book gives that core principle, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
And the core principle being, holding that space, then beautiful, loving, compassionate principles, and holding that space for the other to come into that space, their own space within them, which is the healer within. It's so beautiful. It's remarkable. It really is. But that's the same. That's the same with every healing modality and practice in this world. This is what you're talking about. It's profound.
Yeah. It's like there's this deep truth that runs like a deep river under the ground,
Yes.
And it connects everyone and everything in that way. I truly believe that there are these ultimate truths that exist. And then there are other truths which are, more small factual bits and bobs. But, beneath all, there are these truths that run, and
it's all yes, and it's all one, isn't it? It's all one, because you do the herbal medicine, you do the yogic and the kundalini healing, with the energy. You do energy medicine, nutrition, the Reiki. It's all helping you to have that balance, that alkaline, beautiful, energetic oneness, that place which is within, which is the true healing place within. There's only one place within you, within me, within each of us, that is that place of healing. And that's beautiful. And I always say this because I love Mary Magdalene, and Mary Magdalene, in her gospel, it says, you save yourself. Yeah. So we are, as a healer, we are helping others to find that healing place within them so they can save them and heal themselves. That's so beautiful. Thank you, Bronwen. Thank you for writing this beautiful, amazing source book that has these core principles within it, because I think this is what we've lost, that really.
Yeah.
And we have to come back to that. That's what this awakening is, finding that within ourselves. Wow, Bronwen, where can we read your beautiful book? Tell us where we can read it, because I'm going to buy it. I'm telling you that now.
Well, I should send you a copy when I get a copy.
Oh, right? Yeah, today. It's just out today, isn't it? It's amazing that we're having this today.
I know, it's so lovely. Well, it's available. I think it's pretty much probably available everywhere. I mean, it's available obviously online, Amazon, but it's definitely bookstores as well. And because it has been selling for years and years and years, it does have people, you will find it in a lot of bookstores. But I definitely recommend finding I can show you the old version, but
Yes,
it is
please.
different to the new one. This is the original. So the Reiki Sourcebook, but the new one is black and gold, so it's very different, and it's sort of like a sophisticated Japanese, beautiful, yummy book. It's really delicious.
Wow.
And I can't wait to see it. So I hope people see it on the shelves and pick it up, flick through, see if you find things in there that resonate for you. Because really, I think it's great for, I know I sound a bit biased, but I think every Reiki practitioner should have this because they can use it as a reference for anything, any questions that people have, or that they have themselves. They can look it up in there and find the answers. But even people who are just interested in the system of Reiki and haven't done anything much with it, I think it's still an amazing place to be because it goes through all the different elements and how they work for you, and that practices. There's lots of practices in there as well that you can actually do. They're actually all described in there. So yeah, go for it.
Absolutely brilliant. Well, Bronwen, I just want to say thank you for this really in-depth, profound, dive into Reiki and how it it's almost like, initiates and holds space for our own healing, which is really, really important. And thank you for your divine wisdom and your research in writing this book. And thank you for being on the Great Awakening Show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me here. I am so honored, and for the beautiful clarity that you've brought to all the